right, so there's a question about changing the symbology on page 260 of the social services ranges. So I wanted to go back to page 258 where we're creating the spatial join and see if perhaps the issue started there. So I'm on page 258, number 1. It says on the Analysis tab, click on Spatial Join in the Geoprocessing pane for the target features. Select Social Services Clipped, and mine says 2 just because I have an existing one, but yours will probably just say Clipped. For the join features, select Public Housing Ring Buffer, and again I have a 2 because I was repeating this analysis. And rename the output feature class, what does it want us to rename the output feature class? Social Services Buffer Range. Oops, gotta remember those underscores. Okay, for match option, it says completely within. In the field map section, scroll down in the output fields. You have to scroll down in your window too. Scroll down in the output fields and choose distance. Way down here. So if you don't see it, make sure you're scrolling all the way down in this scroll bar, and then all the way down in this one to get to distance. Okay, distance. Oh, sorry, I got sidetracked. In the field map, scroll down, choose distance. This is part number 3. To the right side of the same section, click on the Properties tab, right here. Rename both the field name and alias to range. Okay, there we go. So 258, make sure that type is set to double. Yes, it is. And run the tool. Okay, open the attribute table for the social services buffer range layer. And it tells us the range field is added to the table so that each social service site now includes buffer range of where it is located. So when you scroll all the way to the right, you want to make sure that this range field is filled with the values from your buffer. If it's filled with other values, it might mean you based the buffer on a different numbers or something, or a different field in the attribute table, but just make sure that is there. And then it asks on 259 on your own section, change the symbology of the social services buffer range layer so that it includes 3 categories, 1 for each of the buffer ranges. To do that, we want to make sure we have our social services buffer range highlighted, and then we go to our Appearance tab, and we click on Symbology to bring up our symbology symbology pane. Okay, so we want to go to Unique Values, and then click More, and select Show, and deselect Show All Other Values. Oh, make sure that you've moved your field to the range. So we should see our range pop up. So if you don't have range, it means the spatial join wasn't correct. So go back and try that spatial join again, save it as something else. But from here, they just have red, yellow, and green, so we can do that. And match their symbology. Oops. Every time I do that. Green, as best we can. Go back to our... so it should match from here, and then just make sure you saved your symbology and saved the project. It's always good to save it. Let's see. I'm on page 261. I'm calculating distance section. In this section, we are calculating a distance measurement for each social service site to the nearest public housing site using the Near tool. So on the Analysis tab, we'll go back to that Analysis tab in our Tools. gallery, we want to open the Near tool, which I missed. There it is. And in our geoprocessing pane, for the input features, choose Social Services Buffer Range. And Near features public housing sites. Mine are just called Public Housing 2, but yours is called Public Housing Sites. Enter a search radius of 1 and change the units to miles. Select the checkbox for angle. Select geodesic from the method drop-down list. A lot to set here, and then we'll just check to make sure everything matches their picture. My names might be slightly different, but then we can go ahead and click Run. And, excuse me, if we open the attribute table here, if we scroll all the way to the right, so now we have 3 columns after range. We have the near FID, the near distance, and the near angle. In addition to the distance values are in feet, which comes from the coordinate system. The geodesic method calculates the shortest distance and takes account curvature and distortion of the input layer's coordinate system. Okay, so close any open tables. I'm now on page 261, the Select by Location section. To isolate the clusters of census tracts that you have seen throughout this project, you will use the Select by Location tool. This tool can select features by calculating spatial relationships between different layers. So in the Contents pane, that's over here, make LA Census Tract, Public Housing Ring Buffer, and Topographic the only visible layers. Oops, we want the ring buffer. Yep, Public Housing, Census Tract, Public Housing, and Topographic. Okay, everything else is turned off. On the Map tab, click Select by Location. For the Input feature layer, select LA Census Tracts. For Relationship, select Have Their Center In. For selecting features, select Public Housing Ring Buffer. And then nothing for the search distance. Let's check that screenshot in the book to make sure it matches. Okay, and then we can click OK. And it looks like that picture in the book that we've got only the census tracts that are have their center in the multiple ring buffers are being selected. Yep, that's what it says on page 263. In the Contents pane, select the LA Census Tract layer. On the Data tab, in the Data tab, click the Export Features button and rename the Output Feature class to Clusters. And click OK. Let's double check. That's where the image, there we go. And we'll see that it added, for us, it added it in the same symbology pattern as, for me, I should say, it added the same symbology pattern for the area median. In the book, it looks like it just adds it in purple. So we can clear the selection. Let's see, what do we do in the book? Yeah, let's go ahead and set the symbology of this just to a single symbol. We'll make it a nice purple like the book. Yeah, good enough. Just so it looks more like your book looks. Okay. So I'm on page 264, Dissolve Features. On the Analysis tab in the Tools Gallery, open the Dissolve tool. And modify its parameters. For the input features, select clusters. rename the output feature class clusters outline. I'm going to keep my 2 in there so I know which one it is. Maintain the other default settings and click run. Make sure it looks right. And click run. Alright, so looking like the book on page 265. Census tracts are dissolved. Change the symbologies so it has no color and just a distinct outline color. Okay. What do they turn it to a blue in the book, so let's match that. We want that bright blue. And they have a 2-point outline. Okie dokie. And we can turn this one off. It looks like they turned that off. Okay, 266, we're in the section on intersecting layers. So now we are going to intersect City of Los Angeles political boundaries and Los Angeles County Census Tract layer. Okay. Turn off all layers except the base map and the city boundary. I think I have to add that, hang on. Alright, so here we can see our base map and our city boundary. Notice the color's different, but that is okay. On the Analysis tab in the Tools gallery, we're looking for our Intersect tool, and we're going to modify the parameters. So our input features are city boundary and the census tracts. Census tracts. We're going to rename our output boundary City Census Tracts. And keep everything else the same and click Run. Oops. Oops. 2 things. One, I already have something named this, so it's telling me I have to change it. So we'll add a 2 at the end. Let's see if we already have 2. Nope. There we go. And then we can click Run. The city census tract layer is added to the map. So 267, turn off the city boundary layer. Done. Select the city census tract layer and open the symbology pane. In the pane options menu, click Import Symbology. Okay, click Import Symbology. So click on the options menu, Import Symbology. Choose LA Census Tract as the symbology layer. And, oops, in the symbology field, select value field as the type. For both the source field and the target field, set them as area, median, income, so it should match. Okay. City census tracts, LA census tract. Okay, then we'll click Run. Okay, if you see the symbology in the contents pane, but not on the map, in the symbology pane, set the field to average, median, income, and change the upper value. Okay, so then if you're not seeing this display, you'll go to the symbology pane. You'll set the field to average, median, average. I think it's just area, median, income, not average. And change the upper value and label to match. Okay, so this on page 268 is just telling you if that doesn't work, go through it and do it manually like you did previously in the exercise. So that's all it means in 268. If it doesn't automatically change to match area, median, income here, they're saying go up here and do it manually. I don't know why they're calling it average median income when the field is called area median income, unless I labeled it wrong. Yeah, it's area median income. So pretend it doesn't say average. All right, so moving forward in step 268, turn on the visibility for the social services buffer range. Public housing sites and public housing ring buffer. Order them so they are all visible. So if you want to, so let's zoom in a little bit. Right now, my census tracts are on top of my buffers. If we want to reorder them, we can, as long as we're in our list by drawing order option for our contents pane, we can just drag our symbols around. So I can just move the public housing ring buffer above the city census tracts, and then it will look more like That's what we're seeing on the map. The public housing, is that in there? Yeah, that's these dark blue dots. So if you need help reordering, you can always minimize some things so you don't see them, but you can just drag the order. Let's drag it back to the top so we can see. Oops, didn't want to do that. Now we can't see anything. There we go. We want to make sure our buffer is, well, I want my buffer to be below my points. You can choose something different. It looks like in the book, the buffer's above range. I'm sorry, above the housing, but below the range. So that is how you change the symbology and finish up with 7C.